Welcome back, Wolfpack. Burles here to a VGC 2016 guide for Ho-Oh. Now, I believe Ho-Oh is going to be a secret OP Pokemon, honestly, but there are a lot of things holding it back. Now, since this is going to be for the VGC 2016 GS Cup rules, there will be other legendaries, so this will be a very in-depth guide with damage calculations and other moveset breakdowns, so stay tuned for all of that fun stuff. But I think that the biggest thing holding Ho-Oh back is that people will look at it and they won't see much potential. So that's what I've done. I've tried to dig as much as possible, find combos, synergies, things to avoid, and really go for the full in-depth look on a Ho-Oh. And what I came up with is that it's a not necessarily better Talonflame, but just a legendary Talonflame. It's easy to say that because of the typing, but it's really funny when we break it down. So, Talonflame, let's just say it also works for support. So I have support Ho-Oh, I have offensive Ho-Oh. Say we're just going for offense in this case. Talonflame, Adamant Nature, 252 attack. Say it's Life Orb. It's Life Orb Talonflame. We're going to be doing just slightly less damage on a Scarf because 359 compared to the 287, then getting Life Orb boosted damage. So this is going to make up for our speed in a really good way. We're going to get over 450 speed on this Choice Scarf with a Jolly Nature, which effectively gives us just something like a Gale Wings. The only difference is that Talonflame doesn't have great defenses, Ho-Oh has more legendary stats, especially in that special defense. So this is what we're going to be able to play around, is that we're just a Talonflame with legendary stats, and then we also get a little bit better coverage. We can cheese out the Earthquake in the end. We get access to stuff, but it's like hard to come up with that fourth move, honestly, because when you look at it, we get a lot of special moves. I guess the Iron Head, but really it's going to be about the Sacred Fire and Brave Bird. And I think one of the better ways you can run this is just as like a super fast burn machine that does a good amount of damage. I mean, 359 attack. 359 attack is very respectable, and then Sacred Fire has 100 base power. So yeah, 100 power, 95% accuracy, 50% chance to burn the target. So the way I feel the best way to use Ho-Oh offensively is just going to be throwing out Scarf Sacred Fires on their physical attackers and hoping for that burn. 50% chance, you know, it's could happen, could backfire, so don't gamble on it, don't bank everything on that play. However, it can be really good from a come from behind victory that if you just come in, Scarf, burn them, and then that swings the battle, that works out really well. Or it's good for establishing momentum, and worst case scenario, you just do a ton of damage while being super fast. So I think that works out pretty well. Other than that, we do have Brave Bird. Still, it's Life Orb, Talonflame, Adamant Talonflame levels of Brave Bird damage. You are going to be super fast on that. Earthquake for coverage and other synergies if you have like a Levitate Pokemon, or if you really need to hit that Heatran on their side of the field, you can do something like that. And like I said, the other coverage physically, there isn't too much, like Aerial Ace, Brave Bird, Double Edge, Earthquake Facade. Yeah, you don't really get too much that you can use with this. So yeah, whatever you come up with, you can put it there. I guess the Iron Head just works because like Fairy type Pokemon and whatnot, but super effective Iron Head is going to be less than a Brave Bird. However, if you're hitting a Fairy type Pokemon, I guess it's good to not have the recoil and slightly more damage than the neutral Sacred Fire. So that's something to consider. However, since we're Fire type Pokemon, we do really well against Fairies since we resist their stab moves, which is pretty solid. So I guess next we're just going to start looking at matchups. Naturally, Primal Kyogre is going to absolutely destroy us, but there are some things that we can play around with in this situation. Kyogre wants to be modest a lot of the time and just kind of rely on that bulk. We can go Jolly Choice Band. So I know I've been talking about Scarf, but if you're looking at it from a damage perspective, Jolly Choice Band has a decent chance, 81% chance to one-hit KO the Primal Kyogre, so that's something if you're really worried about Kyogre, you might be able to just Jolly Choice Band Ho-Oh and say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to attempt to outspeed you as much as possible, and then one-shot you on that Brave Bird because you only have 90 on that base defense, even though Origin Pulse is super threatening back. So maybe a fake out coverage, you fake out their you fake out their other Pokemon, and then you Brave Bird into the Kyogre and hope you get that 81% chance to knock it out. So at least that's where the damage starts trading off. However, if we are going to be on that Choice Scarf level, well, Choice Scarf is going to be not as great. We're still going to be doing good amounts of damage, around 66%, so 2/3 of their health, but then we're going to go down to the Origin Pulse, unless you have more damage following it up. Remember, if you can go like double sweeper with Ho-Oh, it's kind of like that super speedy damage support, or you could just switch out into like a Water Absorb Pokemon maybe. Like, you have some options that you can pull off, but if you're in a worst case scenario, at least you have an opportunity to hold your own and maybe even finish off a weakened Kyogre. As for the Primal Groudon, if it's running Stone Edge, it's going to one-shot us, but it does have an 80% chance to one-shot us, so we might get that 20%. Other than that, Rock Slide, because of the split damage in doubles, a Rock Slide on a tank Primal Groudon won't be able to knock us out. However, it's like Adamant Nature, 252, then it's just going to be able to absolutely destroy us if we don't have any hit point investment, and our Jolly Choice Banded Earthquake against it doesn't really do too much. We don't really have too much damage against it in general when it comes down to that Primal Groudon. So yeah, because of the Desolate Land boosting the power of Fire-type moves, well, Sacred Fire is actually going to be gaining a lot of damage. Brave Bird and Earthquake are still decent options. So that actually brings up another synergy. As a teammate option, we could run like the Scarf Ho-Oh throwing out the Sacred Fires, and then just go into something like a Primal Groudon on our team. And with our Primal Groudon, Sun boosting stuff like that's going to be pretty awesome, and we can cover for each other pretty well. This is where we can maybe have that Choice Band opportunity because, oh, a Kyogre comes in and it tries to put a damper on our Primal Groudon. Well, then we Choice Band that Brave Bird, we knock it out. Groudon might have a turn to do something. We still get our Sunny Day. Switch out Ho-Oh, go into another Pokemon. Ho-Oh can come back in and then reset its choice item for the best opportunity possible. So there are some opportunities there, if you're not worried about Kyogre at all. Just Primal Groudon, Ho-Oh, then we can go that Choice Scarf, Sacred Fire thing, try to burn their target, hit the Precipice Blades on both opponents. That could be a KO right there in a pretty respectable way, and we take minimal damage while doing so. Groudon might take a hit because it's slower. We just have to see where this goes, but that Sacred Fire boosted in the Sun is going to turn into some pretty serious damage. Alright, so what I did was I took the Sunshine, so let's just say Harsh Sunshine, with a Jolly Choice Scarf Sacred Fire Pokemon like this. It's going to be doing about 75%, so 3/4 of a Kangaskhan's health, so 105 base hit points and 100 defense. So Kangaskhan's a huge bulky Pokemon, and we can still do good amounts of damage to it. Sucker Punch doesn't do as much back, and we can still tank out a return a bit. So there is going to be just like some damage checks on this one. Let's go and drop this down to 85. So if we have 85 base attack and 85 base defense, still not going to be enough. So my guess is like 80 and 70, not 180. So if we take I'm trying to do the numbers right here. We take 80 and then 70. I think in the Sun that will be about enough. So 75 base hit points, 80 base defense is going to be the one-shot range in Sun on that Choice Band. And then we also have Brave Bird damage, which could be pretty nice, but the Harsh Sunshine is going to trump in this situation. Now we can look at is also just the Landorus matchup. Landorus is going to be crazy, which is why I talk about the Jolly Choice Scarf. Like Adamant Choice Scarf, naturally going to be more damage. However, here's where things start to get funny. So if, say they have an Adamant Choice Scarf Landorus Therian, their Rock Slide will be able to knock us out unless we have 100 hit point investment, because that double split, and it not getting stabbed from Rock Slide. Rock Slide, fortunately, is a low base power move, so we can actually tank it out if we have 100 hit point investment. Now, if they're running, say, the Jolly on that Landorus Therian, then that means we can actually survive with 0 EV investment. So if we're Jolly, they're going to outspeed us because they have 1 more base speed point. However, if we're Adamant, we're going to outspeed them and at least have that chance to burn them on the Sacred Fire. So with the Jolly Scarf against the Adamant, we're going to outspeed them. Sacred Fire is going to do decent amount of damage, but if we do get that burn status in there, then that means it's going to make it to where he's not going to be able to finish us off. So let's go and find the burn status. Boom, 45 to 54%, and then we effectively neuter their Landorus, and if it was Jolly, then they outspeed us and they don't knock us out, and then we still have a chance to burn them or do damage to another Pokemon. So this is why I was thinking the Jolly Scarf could work in some situations like that. Other than that, I was thinking about Ho-Oh as a tank. So let's go and check out Tank Ho-Oh, which again is like Tank Talonflame. Tank Talonflame provides a lot of really crazy support stuff: Tailwind, Taunt, Quick Guard, Will-O-Wisp, and Ho-Oh, I think you can run the Will-O-Wisp, but there's also that Sacred Fire. So with the tankier Ho-Oh, I was thinking just max out the hit points, put 196 investment into the attack, and then go for 60 on the speed. Reason why 60 on the speed is going to be Landorus once again, and any kind of Pokemon that's trying to scarf around that 91 speed range. So say that we have an Adamant Landorus that's going to be 214 speed at level 50 after that Scarf applies. If it's a Jolly Landorus, it'll have 235 speed after that Scarf, which is why I put these numbers right here. So Adamant with Scarf, Jolly with Scarf, which means we're just going to have to take those numbers into consideration with Ho-Oh. Well, my thought is, let's go Tailwind. So what we're going to do is we're going to Tailwind, and then with this 60 investment in the speed, now we're outspeeding Scarf, Jolly, Landorus, and any other Pokemon that hits this 118 threshold will as well. So other sweepers, Pokemon that really want that Tailwind on their side, Tailwind's a very powerful force. So it's like Talonflame setting up a Tailwind, except Tailwind does have that Gale Wings, so that could be pretty ferocious. Then we have Sacred Fire, so now we're outspeeding them with Sacred Fire, and we still have a solid amount of attack right here. 196 on that attack is nothing to scoff at because it still does a good amount of damage than like Protect and Brave Bird. Or if you don't like the Protect, it's Roost, but it is double, so Protect. Like if you're really good at Protect outplays, that's pretty nice. If you like that healing potential, you know, Tailwind, take damage, Roost, other Pokemon blows up opponents, and then you can like Sacred Fire and Brave Bird. You're going to be doing a lot of damage to yourself with that Brave Bird, so the recoil could be ferocious. So you can either understand you're trying to tank it out with the Roost, or you're most likely surviving 1-2 hits and then dishing out huge damage before going down. In that case, make the Protect outplay, use Brave Bird as a last hurrah, and try to knock out the opponent from there. So, what we can do with this, Life Orb, Adamant Nature, because that's why I was thinking about doing this. Our damage against a Mega Rayquaza is going to be interesting. We tank up the Mega Rayquaza Dragon's Ascent, which means that if, say they use that, they Dragon's Ascent us, we survive, we get a Tailwind, we fake out their other Pokemon, or we apply pressure to that Pokemon to where it doesn't stop the Tailwind from being set up. We set up Tailwind, now we outspeed them with a Brave Bird, and we knock them out. Now this will cost us our life because of that Brave Bird recoil, but in the one-on-one Rayquaza, we can at least trade. We take out their Mega Rayquaza for our support Ho-Oh, and we still have turns of Tailwind on the field, which could be pretty powerful. Now this is going to be with the Life Orb, so it does bring that into consideration. Do we just go screw it, go Life Orb, because Adamant Life Orb damage is going to be a big amount, and like I said, if we just bulk those initial hits with a Tailwind, throw out 1 or 2 Brave Birds, most likely it's just going to be 1 before we get knocked out. Unless we don't take any damage. If we don't take any damage, we get free Tailwind setup because the opponent focuses our other Pokemon or they go for their own setup. We can try to capitalize on that, and then that means we get like 2 Brave Birds because now we're outspeeding, we're finding solid amounts of KOs on a lot of Pokemon, and that can be pretty effective. Primal Kyogre, Brave Bird damage on that is going to be pretty decent. We are going to have a small chance to survive the Origin Pulse because of our hit point investment against modest 252. And let's just say, like, depending on its EV breakdown, you know, we're not going to find KOs unless we Helping Hand boost, or if we have some other damage on the Kyogre, but we can do good amounts of damage. This is why I feel Ho-Oh is going to be seen as more of a support with, like, huge offensive pressure potential, because what you need to do is just put a sweeper next to it. Alright, Kyogre, you try to hit it, you do some damage. Even if you don't knock out their Primal Kyogre, Water Spout isn't going to do enough damage to knock you out from that point, and then Origin Pulse has a chance of finishing you off, but if it doesn't, you still get the Tailwind set up, and then you can just kind of trade, you know. Alright, you Brave Bird the Kyogre, it already took damage, Kyogre for Ho-Oh traded, your other Pokemon, hopefully it's a fast sweeper, tries to out-pressure your opponent's other Pokemon, and then you can turn that into a victory for yourself right there. So at least those are the trades. Now naturally, like I said, you don't want to be facing against the Kyogre, but it shows you can at least stand your ground, that maybe they won't expect you to just stay in, Scarf Brave Bird them, and then do tons of damage with another Pokemon. Now, I think Primal Kyogre is being a little bit overplayed, like regular Kyogre, just Scarf is pretty ridiculous as well. So the Water Spout will be able to beat you up on this one, so I wouldn't even try to face check this Pokemon. Hopefully you have a better way of dealing with it, but that's just Ho-Oh. It's not going to be able to handle everything like that. I'm just showing where it can find those opportunities. Now when it comes to Xerneas, things are interesting because Xerneas, it wants to be supported. It's going to have a fake out Pokemon, it's going to have a Rage Powder, it's going to have a Follow Me. It's going to be difficult to deal with just outright because what you could do is Brave Bird it. Brave Bird does a lot of damage to that Pokemon naturally, and then you can like set up Tailwind into Brave Bird and then have a Pokemon on your side of the field do like 1/3 of its health with a physical, maybe a very powerful special attack, and you're going to be good to go. But there are things to consider right here because, well, if he gets his Geomancy off, he's doubling his speed. 125, that's a larger number than 118. So is that what we want to do? Are we going to keep investing more into this to try to catch up with that Pokemon? Say we go for 160, that's going to be 130. That means we can speed creep other Xerneas that are doing all sorts of weird little things with it. Say it's 60, we're still going to be able to outspeed that. Here's the problem, at the time of making this video, it's really hard to tell what the speed investment on Xerneas is going to be because it can find a lot of really cool outspeeds, but it also wants to be tanky so it doesn't get blown up on that first turn. So say it sacrifices those defense EVs, well now it's going to be easier to get damage with that Brave Bird. What happens if we Helping Hand then? So we Helping Hand the Brave Bird and now it's going to be able to one-shot the Xerneas because it sacrificed the defenses to put a lot more in speed. So it depends on what the Xerneas is running. I'm not going to know. When you're building this team, try to find out what Xerneas is up to at the time since it is a little bit early in the metagame, but then we can change it around. So that's going to be the matchup. It has like weird speed things with the Tailwind, but it also could be just uberly supported, and that's where we go back to Talonflame. Talonflame has the taunt, also has Quick Guard, can protect you from a fake out. What if you went like Talonflame Ho-Oh? That's going to be like super bad against things like the Groudon, except you might be able to, oh actually, hold up. Hold up, now, I'm just getting crazy. So, if we have Talonflame, say that's the Pokemon with Life Orb, it has Quick Guard, Taunt, Brave Bird, and like Will-O-Wisp or something, and then we're running the Scarf Ho-Oh, we double Brave Bird that Kyogre, and then we go and knock it out before it gets to do any bad things to us, and then we can shut down their rain entirely. I think actually the double power of this might be good enough. Now we actually will get rock-type Pokemon might give us this problem, but we do have the Earthquake, we do have like Will-O-Wisp because that's going to be mostly physical, so that could be an interesting breakdown. Like I think Talonflame Ho-Oh might actually have some synergy right there that I didn't expect, because you have Taunt, Quick Guard, Brave Bird, and damage like that, so you can overwhelm quite a lot with a good amount of power from these Pokemon. And last up, we have Greninja versus Ho-Oh. Not because it's an insane technical matchup. You tank up a hit and then you hit it with a Brave Bird and it dies. But the idea behind this is, say we're not running Life Orb. We have Focus Sash because we really want to get that Tailwind set up. We have like leftovers, Citrus Berry. We're playing a tankier set. Remember, you can run the Roost. You can do a bit more defensively if you want to be running that Ho-Oh. Actually, this one has the 60 special defense instead of 60 on that. But anyway, we're going to survive. So we survive the Hydro Pump, we go and set up the Tailwind, and then we just Brave Bird it. So a Pokemon with around 70s in the hit points and defense, so like 70 Pokemon. There's quite a few sweepers that are frail like that. We're going to be able to get the one-hit KO on the Brave Bird a huge amount of time, and if it's any less, like, to say it's like 70 and 67 like the Greninja, we're going to be able to one-shot this Pokemon. So that just shows like the tankiness that we're breaking down. Now what about with the Life Orb? So I'm going to go and look for the Life Orb right here. Boom. So yeah, that's going to be like super amounts of overkill. Remember, we're doing 30% more damage with that Life Orb setup. So it will be a huge trade right there. It's like set up Brave Bird, knock out a Pokemon, sacrifice off your Ho-Oh, and that Pokemon will have to be, I'm thinking like 85 maybe. I haven't looked up the numbers. Boom, perfect. So say the Pokemon has 85 base defense, 85 hit points, something like that, you know, 80, and then 90 could also be something similar. 80, 90, might have a small chance of survival, but those are going to be the stat breakdowns for that Pokemon. So Life Orb finds us more KOs against a lot more, and if we're not running Life Orb, we can still KO certain Pokemon or at least get huge amounts of damage onto them. As for Garchomp, I think Garchomp has great synergy with the Ho-Oh. It actually frees up your Life Orb. So say we're not running Life Orb, set up Tailwind on the Ho-Oh, we're doing like Citrus Berry or something to tank up a hit, or like I said, Focus Sash. Focus Sash can be pretty good. So Tailwind, we take the hit, Focus Sash activates, Garchomp went for Protect on that first turn. Now we have an Earthquaking Garchomp that's going to be throwing out ridiculous amounts of damage on that Earthquake. Also has Draco Meteor. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of like these super mixed or special Garchomp, but here's the thing. If you go uninvested special attack on a Draco Meteor Garchomp, first your Tailwind is going to outspeed that Mega Salamence, and your Draco Meteor is going to one-hit KO that Mega Salamence. So I really like the breakdown of that, okay, we set up the Tailwind, Ho-Oh, it just goes for like the Sacred Fire, tries to burn the other Pokemon, gets huge amounts of Brave Bird damage, and then Garchomp just outspeeds Draco Meteors their Mega Salamence, knocks it out. Also, there's going to be a lot of Dragon-type Pokemon, because there's a lot of legendary Dragon-type Pokemon, so that Draco Meteor damage is going to be pretty huge against a lot of other legendaries. And then we also have the Earthquake. So Earthquake isn't going to affect Ho-Oh, does a lot of damage to the opponents. Ho-Oh gets to do that Sacred Fire, the damage, whatever. And depending if you play it right, you know, say that you anticipate they're going to be focusing the Garchomp. Earthquake Sacred Fire knocks out the Pokemon that would have maybe been targeting you. The other Pokemon hits Garchomp. Ho-Oh's still alive at 1 hit points with his Focus Sash. That could be pretty awesome. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I think Ho-Oh is going to be much more powerful than people give it credit for. As you can see here, we get a lot of really good matchups, surprising amounts of damage, good Tailwind setup, or just a really hard burn damage Scarf shutdown, similar to a Life Orb Talonflame. We can even pair it with Talonflame. We can find Fake Out support. I like the pure offenses. Anything that likes that Tailwind, like a Garchomp, like a not really slow Pokemon, but anything that's pretty good. As for the speed, I was thinking, you know, we go with that naive nature. We're not surviving an Ice Beam anyways, and say our Tailwind setup fails, we still have 333 speed. That's going to outspeed a lot of other Pokemon, because when we look at it, you know, Primal Groudon, a lot of legendary Pokemon, they don't break that 100 speed realm, so by running that naive, we're just going to make sure we outspeed everything. So guys, enjoyed the video. That's how you use Ho-Oh, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.